and Needles podcast. My name is Zoe and you can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as pinsandneedlesuk. If you check the drop down box below, you will find links to my Ko-fi account, my Ravelry group, timestamps for the whole podcast. What else might you find down there? Links to the Knit Tea Retreat and Cartref Yarn, and also the Dave's Gym YouTube channel. We're still posting workouts and cooking things up on that channel if you are interested. Well, Sunday afternoon, it's a funny kind of day. It's weirdly quiet. I think my eldest is busy upstairs doing some physics and Max has just swung past for an update on his mobile phone. I've seen Jocelyn this morning and Dave is outside making some sort of garden fence out of a table and some clapperboard. So if there's any horrendous background noise, I'm very sorry, that's Dave with garden tools. And also I'm sorry for the backdrop. I'm sat in my back room again, just because that's where the best light is. And the front room is a disaster and I didn't want to try and spend 20 minutes tidying it up. Thank you very much and hello to any new subscribers and welcome back to the old crowd. I am still doing my daily vlogs if you're interested in those. I know a lot of people aren't keen, but I did just want to mention a couple of days that you might find interesting. So my 30th of April vlog, it's a slightly longer than one, it's about half an hour, and on that one it's Dave and I together and we talk about some of our favourite films. So if you're interested in that, it's worth having a watch. And on the 1st of May, which was the Friday just gone, so the 1st of May vlog, I got out all of my 4-ply yarn stash, tipped it out all onto my bed and gave you a quick rifle through that. So if you're interested in a nose through my stash, you might enjoy that one as well. I wanted to start, I've been trying to show this on the daily vlogs for about a week and I haven't managed it. I wanted to say an extra big thank you to everybody that's bought me a coffee. I said I was going to spend some of it on a tripod and it came through and I'm thrilled with it. This is the tripod. So it's got a really nice big handle here that sort of goes flat. Much sturdier, thicker metal tubing. It's got a hook. Yeah, you can see the hook there, so that when the legs are fully extended and these bits unclip like that, so when it's at its tallest, it's tall enough to fill me at head height, and if you attach a weight to the bottom down there, it helps keep it steady if you're filming outside. And it's got this funky handle that goes both ways to make it nice and smooth for changing angle. And if I just fold the legs back up, this bit on the top here, this kind of hook shape, and this bit is a mobile phone clamp. On my old rickety tripod, I had a mobile phone attachment on it, but it was on a spring and it was quite unstable and it was really stretching it to get my phone in it or Dave's phone. Dave has a fairly new iPhone, a couple of years old, and I record everything I do on my Samsung Galaxy Note, so they're quite wide. But this one, you can change the orientation of it, look at that. And then this opens and closes the clamp itself, this knob on the top. And it's a proper quality metal screw. Can you see that? So it's much more stable. So thank you very much everyone that donated for that. I've been using it lots, both for the daily vlogs and for filming the Dave's Gym stuff. And Conrad also uses it for his training. He films his sets and sends them off to Jack, who goes over them and gives him feedback. It also comes in this rather fabulous bag with a strap. So should we ever be allowed out of lockdown and to head to a yarn show again, I can take it with me. Okay, finished objects. I'm sure you will be as pleased as I am that I have finally finished my dad's socks. I haven't washed or blocked them. I'll do that now I've shown them to you. And they are a little bit longer than my longest sock blockers, so they're a little bit of a loose fit on here. It was a 100-gram ball of Regia Tweed colour in the colourway 20439, and I used every last inch of this yarn, a full 100-gram ball of yarn, and I still needed contrast yarn for the toes. So these are the Crunkled Socks pattern by K.F. Jones of the Bakery Bears. So it's a knit pearl pattern texture that gives you this lovely poofy squishy sock. Heel flap and gusset, wedge toe. I didn't have quite enough yarn to get as far as the toe. I just had to do, I think, 3 or 4 plain rounds in the contrast mini just to make them long enough. And the contrast is this lovely salmon pink colour that was part of our Knit Tea Retreat party bunting socks kit. So fortunately I had a skein of that. I think it goes rather well, actually. My dad's birthday is coming up in June, so in fact I think it's usually the same week as Father's Day. So I'll have these ready for him, and I can put something else, in the same parcel and send them off at the same time. So I was really pleased with those. And that's my only finished object. So rattling on to works in progress, and I am so close to finishing my Cartrack Cardigan. Here it is. This is the Little Waves cardigan pattern by Gudrun Johnston. You can buy it on Ravelry, and at the time I think have I gone fuzzy? There we go. When it was first released, it was part of the Brooklyn Tweed release, Wool People, something like that. So I'm knitting it out of our yarn, which is Cartref DK in the undyed colourway, which is called Naturiol, and it's this lovely oatmeal-y colour. Now this line across the sleeve and across the body here that you can just see, that marks where I joined the sleeves and the body together and started the yoke. And I think when I showed you last week, I'd maybe done an inch of the yoke. So since then, I finished it all. It has lovely saddle shoulder shaping. Can you see? Comes up and then goes across there. And if I show you the back, it's patterned all the way up to there. And then you get a stocking stitch section at the top. I've completed the shawl collar. It's all in garter with a lovely I-cord bind off. Down at the bottom, you've got pocketses. I'm really pleased with these. I went with mattress stitch to attach them, and it's almost seamless. These have an I-cord bind off as well. In the pattern, it says to go down a needle size for the I-cord bind off for the collar, but either it doesn't say to do the same for the pocket bind off, or I just didn't do it. So they've come out slightly baggier than I would like, but I think by the time I've blocked it, it will be fine. If you watched the last episode, I talked to you about how I thought I'd mucked up the sleeves on this. As it turns out, I only mucked up one. So the right sleeve is on the right way around, but the left sleeve is on back to front. So this is a garter elbow patch, and it's on the front and it should be on the back. So that also means that my increases, I don't know if they'll show up, are running down the top of my arm rather than down the underneath. I decided, when I discovered this, I was about an inch into the yoke, and I decided I was not going to rip it out and reattach everything. I thought I would knit the yoke, put the button band on, and then try it on for fit, because I wasn't sure if I needed to knit the sleeves a little bit longer. So I finished it all, I tried it on, and the fit is lovely, and the length of the sleeves is just about right. I think once I've blocked it, they'll be absolutely perfect. I don't like sleeves to be too long. I don't like to have to double the cuff up because it's bulky under my coat. So now all I have to do to finish is, I've got a few dangly ends to weave in, and my plan for this sleeve is to cut it just before where it's joined, turn it the right way around and graft it all the way back round, and then it can be blocked. I do need buttons. It has 5 buttonholes, And the pattern calls for the 1-row buttonhole technique, which I don't think I've done before. Worked really well, gives a really nice sturdy edge to your buttonhole. And my hope was to wear this to Wonderwall and go and visit Textile Garden's button stand to choose some buttons. So I know I could order online, but I really like to try them through the buttonhole they're intended for to make sure that they work well. So this will probably remain buttonless for the foreseeable future. So just a little bit more work to go on that. It is a little bit poofy kind of round here where you start doing lots of decreases, but I think once it's blocked that will settle down beautifully. So once I finish talking to you, I'll do that sleeve switcheroo, weave in all of the ends, and then hopefully I can show it to you modelled next week. That would be nice. My other work in progress, because I cast off Dad's socks, it was time to cast on another sock. And it's my turn for socks. I've got quite a list of people that I knit for. And although my daughter thinks she needs another pair, which she does, I'm not back to her on my list yet. I cast on the Honeybee Dance socks, which is a pattern I bought at the end of last year. It's by Helen Stewart of The Curious Handmaid podcast. Well, I assume she's still podcasting. I don't know. And that is how far I got. So is that going to focus? Yesterday morning, I jumped out of bed. There we go. And I knit the whole of the cuff, a couple of setup rows and the first pattern repeat. And I did one more pattern repeat later on in the day. And it's a beautiful pattern. If you can see, the back is plain stocking stitch. And at the sides, you've got some twisted rib, a honeycomb cable coming down here, and then a decreased lace section that looks like bees with some pearl rows, and then more honeycomb and more twisted ribbing this side. The yarn I'm knitting it in is beautiful. Anyone familiar with my Pavement Sweater by Vera Valimaki will recognise this. There we go. And it is by my lovely friend Jenny of Owl About Yarn. It's Sparkle Owl in the colourway Rumpelstiltskin. So it's 75% merino, 20% nylon and 5% stellina. And I only used 3 skeins for my pavement sweater and I had a 4th left over. Really enjoying these. I haven't knit fancy socks for a while. Normally my socks are a bit like the ones I just finished for Dad, either plain vanilla in a fun yarn or just a knit and purl pattern that I don't have to think about too much. But I thought I would treat myself and I'd have fancy socks for me. So I'm really enjoying knitting these. And the pattern is very well written. And Helen Stewart is known for, I've just attached myself at the back to something I'm going to show you in a minute. Yes, Helen Stewart is known for very well written patterns and she writes out each row for every size and gives you percentage estimates of the amount of yarn used. So this pattern is something like 23 pages long, but you only need to print off the couple of pages that relate to your size. But because she gives you row by row, it's not quite laid out how I'd expect. So obviously the cuff, you just knit the cuff. There were a couple of setup rows of the pattern which were not charted, which I found odd. So you had to have the written instructions for the first 4 or 5 rows. And the chart itself is very clear, very easy to follow, but the rows aren't numbered. So this is a pattern repeat. Obviously you do so many repeats of this bee design. But normally on the side of the chart, you have row 1 all the way up to, I think, row 12. And there's no row numbers on there because she doesn't say knit rows 1 to 12 5 times. It's row 1 to 12, row 13, 14, 15. So, I mean, it's perfectly clear, but not quite standard. The other thing I'm really pleased about is I am not getting ladders. I'm a DPN knitter. I love DPNs so much faster than all the push me pull you business with Magic Loop. And I used to use Magic Loop when I did stocking stitch socks, because I used to get terrible ladders in plain stocking stitch when I used DPNs. So if you were doing a lace sock or a knit and purl pattern, that would be sort of hidden in the pattern, and you wouldn't see the ladders, and I'd enjoy knitting those on DPNs. But for anything that had a plain section, I would use I would use the Magic Loop method, and I find it slow and a bit of a faff. But I thought, well, these socks are for me, and if I get a ladder down the back of my leg, does it actually matter? But I probably shouldn't say this out loud. I'm actually not getting a ladder. Look, even if I pull it, no ladder. Oh, I can't tell you how pleased I am. So that means that these are going really quite fast. I'm enjoying these very much. I think I'm supposed to do 5 pattern repeats before you start the heel flap. I was a bit worried if the cables would make it a bit tight to get over my foot. I'm knitting the 72 stitch size, but I think because of the twisted ribbing that she added in and the bit of lace in the middle, it works out absolutely fine. So I'm really enjoying these, So this is my knit for when I need a bit of something to keep my mind busy. And that is my cup of tea stitch marker from Chapel View Crafts, who's a fellow Welsh maker. She does stitch markers, progress keepers like this one. And I think she also does needle keepers. If you're an embroiderer, she does little magnetic things, I think they're called needle keepers. And you have a magnet on one side of your work, and then this needle keeper on the front, and you can put your needle on it so you don't get it lost in the fabric. So do go and check her out. So yes, new sock whip, hurrah. There we go. I have got an acquisition to share. I took part in the treasure chest raffle online. I've shared it on my Instagram account, so you might be familiar with it. And Treasure Chest is a charity set up by a friend of mine, the lovely Gudrun, and it raises money several times a year through selling raffle tickets for prizes of yarn and patterns and things that are donated, to raise money for Ysbyty Clwyd, which is her local hospital and the cancer treatment part of it. So I bought some raffle tickets and I won this absolutely stunning set of minis. Now there's a lot of information on this label and I'm not entirely sure which name is the yarn brand, is the dyer brand, is the colourway name. It says Wonderland Yarns, Cheshire Cat, Down the Rabbit Hole, Dormouse number 20. So make of that what you will. And it's hand dyed by Frabjous Fibres in the US. And it's a superwash merino fingering weight in the most beautiful gradient. And what I'm thinking is I might find an undyed merino fingering weight yarn and knit some sort of gradient cowl colour work. I think that would be lovely. Really my colours as well. So I was thrilled to receive that in the post. Thank you very much, Gudrun. I do actually have a teeny tiny bit of a sewing segment. My eldest son, Conrad, who has just turned 16, poor lad, had a lockdown birthday. Anyway, he's a huge fan of rock and metal music, which he shares a love of with Dave. And they've, since Conrad's been sort of 14 and a half years old plus, Dave has started taking him to gigs. Sometimes they're local in Cardiff and Bristol, and I think once or twice they've been further afield. And Conrad's got a couple of mates that sometimes go, and there's quite a few blokes at the gym who are all good friends, and so sometimes there'll be half a dozen of them all going to a gig somewhere. And Conrad recently treated himself to a denim jacket and chopped the sleeves off to make himself a battle jacket. And a battle jacket is just a denim waistcoat that you sew patches on for all the bands that you've been to see in gigs. And I've been promising him for ages and ages that I would put the patches on his jacket for him, and I just haven't got round to it. And he finally said, oh, come on, Mum, let's do it today. So yesterday I dug out the sewing machine and he was really keen to have a go. He had to do textiles as part of his design and technology course at school. He didn't take it for GCSE, but you took it in turns to do woodworking, cooking, and textiles. And I've shown ages ago in one of my episodes, he made me a pencil case with sheep fabric on the front. So he was well up for having a go himself. So I set up the machine for him. And some of these he was able to machine stitch on, like he did this Metallica one. And some of them, because they were on a pocket, we needed to hand sew. So he did all of the machine stitching. We even remembered to change the thread for the yellow for the clutch badge. And then the rest of them, I think 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, no, there were 4 of them that we had to hand sew on. So he did the Orange Goblin one, and then I did Anthrax, Lamb of God and Slayer. I took a tiny bit of footage of him having a go on my sewing machine, so I will put that in here. Right, this is Conrad reliving his textile skills. And what are we doing, Conrad?
We are sewing on my patches onto my jacket.
This is metal bands that he's seen or admires, and I'm very impressed. It's amazing what you'll do in lockdown.
No.
That reminds me, actually, there is another vlog, a daily vlog, I can't remember which one, where I went through my sewing patterns and tried to pull some fabric out of my stash to match with them to sew up in the few months coming along. I'll look up which date it was and put it on the screen here, so if you want to sneak back and have a watch of that. I would like to have a go at getting back into sewing. I left my sewing machine out, and that's usually what stops me. So I think perhaps I need to just bite the bullet and get back into some sewing, and you can all nag me about it. That's kind of all I have for crafting content. Even though I'm home all the time at the moment, I've really just been concentrating on blasting through my Cartrack Cardigan, because I knew if I put it down, it would never be finished. So hopefully I can get that finished today, get it on the blocking mats, and maybe I'll have another new cast on to show you next time. So I think there's just a little bit of chat left, to be honest. I suppose the big news since we last spoke is that we had our huge Cartref Yarn online update, and we also took part in the virtual Wonderland weekend. That was, yeah, the weekend just gone. And we had a huge response. Thank you so much to everybody that bought yarn. We were showcasing our brand new 4-ply yarns and several new colourways as well. So I will try and put a few pictures up here just to, in case you didn't see the daily vlog that was the Cartref things, if you're interested. And there is plenty of yarn left in the shop. We are only shipping once a week on Wednesdays, just to keep contact between us and the postal workers to a minimum for everybody's health. So there was much wrapping up of parcels. Normally Jenny and I do all of these things together, but obviously we can't do that at the moment. So I had to pack all the parcels up myself, and then I met Jenny in a car park and I put the yarn in the parking space between us and got back in my car. And then she got out of her car and picked up the bags of parcels and put them back in her car. So we maintained our safe distances. For anybody that was going to be coming on the June Knit Tea retreat, I hope you have checked your inbox. Unfortunately, Jenny and I had to take the sad decision to cancel the summer retreat. We were really hoping to be able to run it, but I don't think it's going to be possible. I wouldn't be surprised if lockdown goes on for a few more weeks, and then I'm sure that any return to normal life will be phased, and I don't think that an event that is held indoors for 50+ people is going to be permitted. So we had to take the sad decision to cancel it, and we emailed everybody, and thank you so much for your kind understanding on that. Pretty much everybody has taken us up on our offer to roll their place over to June of next year, so that's fabulous. It is only delayed rather than cancelled. Our oven finally died. I was trying to think. We've been in this house for basically 15 years. And when we bought the house, the oven was included, and we had a big range cooker. It was a Smeg, big 5-burner 2-oven job. And it really has been on its last legs for about the last 3 or 4 years. And it got to the point, I've had a bloke out to try and fix it twice, and now you can't get parts anymore because it's that old. And the oven was really only working 50% of the time. So sometimes you put some frozen chips in and they'd still be frozen half an hour later. And then when you turned the oven on, it started making the most awful banging noise. And I thought, well, really, it's just dangerous now. So, you know, given that the gym is closed and we're not really working at the moment, I did not want to shell out many hundreds of pounds on an oven, but it had to be done. And although it was no problem getting the oven delivered, they wouldn't take the old one and they wouldn't install the new one. Normally you can get it all done together, but we couldn't manage that this time, which meant Dave and I did it. So all of Friday morning was spent heaving out the old oven, disconnecting it, cleaning sort of the side of the work surface and the back wall and the floor underneath it, which was not lovely, but we did it. And then installing the new one. But anyway, it's in and it's working a treat. I cooked a test Victoria sponge in it, Delia Smith's all-in-one Victoria sponge, and that came out perfectly. So it's really still quite a novelty to just turn the oven on and it heats up every time. But I really think that's about it. What are we up to? 26 minutes, bit of a shorter one today, I'm afraid. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, all of my contact detail and links to the shop are down below. I will be back to doing daily vlogs next week. Oh, and thank you everybody that popped over to my Ravelry group and left a comment on the crafters mobility and stretching idea that I had. It seems that you are all super keen. I was hoping to make a start on filming that this week just gone, but the Cartref update took a lot more of my time than I thought, as did installing the oven. So I will be getting to work on that this week, and hopefully I will have something for you in the next 2-ish weeks, as I really want to make a good job of filming it, so that hopefully I can provide a really good resource that will be useful to people for years to come. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have some time to yourself. I hope you have some time for crafting, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.